This video is sponsored by Wing Technology, your ultimate flight sim hardware solution, featuring the Orion HOTAS current and future configurations. Hello valued viewers, I hope you're all doing very well. It's that time again, it's the 23rd of December 2021, 2 days before Christmas, how about that? And we've got a brand new DCS version of Open Beta, version 2.7.9.17830, catchy name, huh? We are going to go through what I think you need to know. Let me show you the update list from Eagle Dynamics. It is soul-breakingly massive. I'm going to do what I usually do and try and separate the wheat from the chaff, and I'm going to show you the wheat, the stuff I think you all need to know. We've got them separated into categories. The things in purple boxes, I will cover them only in separate videos in the next few days. The reason is they're complex and I need to learn them properly and present them properly in separate videos. The ones in green boxes I will present in separate videos and present them today in a quick summary. As well as that, everything that's not in a box we will go over now. So first, General, to be presented in a separate video because it's very complex. The new voice chat feature is expanded to talk via radio for all human controlled aircraft. That means they've got a new SRS type radio system in DCS. I haven't got it working yet, but I will do, and I will present it to you when I can. Next, air-to-air missiles will be important to you air-to-air guys. The Dynamic Launch Zone, the DLZ algorithm, was updated for all modern aircraft. It provides much more accurate launch data, which is good because they were pretty terrible before. Correct range dependence on launcher and target velocities, target aspect bearing, added range limitation of the battery lifetime. This is something that's really interesting. So they're more accurate with the parameters that are input into them. But also this has been added. Now that we're firing some pretty long-range missiles, battery life limitation does come into effect and should come into effect when we're talking about the DLZ. At the end of the day, there's no point of shooting a missile miles and miles away if the battery is going to run out. And I've showed you this in several, maybe 10, 20 videos, different shots you can take where the battery life of the missile will run out. They have special batteries and they only last for, well, a minute, 2 minutes, depending on the type of battery used and the sensors used. So that's interesting. Next, air-to-air missiles. The aerodynamics, they're slowly working through the whole set of missiles in the game. And now they're onto the Russian R-33 long-range missile, Super 530D, that's French, the R-550, I think that's French, and the Mika, that is French. I've got no data sets to look at the moment, but I will get some data sets done and we'll have a further look at that. Along the same theme, the field of views of the air-to-air missiles have been changed, as well as the targeting angles. Some of the missiles in-game had unrealistic field of views. I actually proved that the other day when I did which is the best dogfighting missile. A lot of them just had the wrong field of view compared to what it said in general data like Wikipedia and stuff like that. So I've asked ED about this and they've said they've just changed all of the missiles in-game so that they do match the publicly known data. So there you go. Sound engine. Updated sonic boom sound effect. Okay, here we go, and oh, okay. Listen to that, Arsenal. It is different. I like it. I'll take it. C-47 Skytrain aircraft is added to the World War II asset pack. And finally, the Skytrain joins us in-game, which is super cool. It's obviously AI only. You can't fly it as a human pilot. If we went to payload, there is currently no type of payload or anything that it can carry. Maybe in the future it will be able to carry troops or something, but I guess we'll have to see. Let's have a quick look at the model in-game. There she is with her lovely invasion stripes on. Oh, it's naughty. I'll see, they've got a naughty picture. Better not show my wife. How about that? Yeah, looks good. Sounds good. I look forward to blowing them up, I suppose, RC. Caucasus. The Roki tunnel entrance destructible now. It's also multicoloured. Goodbye. Hornet. Improved FLIR image settings. Our Lightning II pod is pointing at some guys about 6 miles ahead of us. This is the FLIR just using a CCD, basically just a camera. And we change the brightness like thus. change the contrast like thus. Also, we can go through to FLIR. We can have auto mode on, or we can have auto mode off. With auto mode off, we can change level up and down. And we can change gain up and down. And have these knobs as well. How different that was from before, I really don't know, but that's how it looks and functions at the moment. Tomcat overhauled all night lighting in F-14A and B cockpits for DCS linear space gamma sampling, whatever that means, in the front seat of the F-14B, and this is what the night lighting looks like now. I want to jump out and say it looks amazing, it looks amazing. However, the problem is I can't remember what it used to look like. What about you, RC?
No.
I'm sure it looks a lot better.
It always looks red to me.
Yeah, I just haven't flown this thing for so long, unfortunately, because I have some problems flying it, that are me problems. So I really can't remember what it looked like. Let's try the floods on quickly. Okay, that's with the red flood and the white flood. I mean, it looks very good. I just can't remember what it looked like before. But, well done anyway, boys. F-16C Viper, the three things that Wags has done videos on. We've got the air-to-ground features of the helmet-mounted securing system. We've got the pod for the ECM. And we've got the new modes for the countermeasures, semi-auto and auto. We'll look at them in separate videos because I need to learn it. Smaller things are added HSD cursor ability to adjust scale and select steer points. First, make the HSD soy with DMS R, then we can slew our cursor. If we go up to the top, we can zoom out, we go down, zoom in further. Then if we put the cursor over one of the steer points and press TMS up or TMS forward, we then select a steer point, and you can see steer point 2. MPD, multi-purpose display clarity improvement. When using the FLIR, remember to enable MGC, manual gain control, for additional image gain clarity. Brightness and contrast may not be enough. So let's go to TGP. We're going to go to IR mode. Currently we have automatic gain control selected. Let's go to manual gain control, and we can then punch that up, down, the light level. We can also choose the gain here, 3 gain, there, down there, as well as the old controls that we have up and down here, which are more kind of for the screen, if that makes sense. So that we've got plenty of control now of the FLIR. Added man DED page. Not going to go over this. Why? Because this was actually added about a year ago. I don't know why they put it in here. I've just checked it out. It's the same page it always was, so we'll ignore that one. The next we need to take together for them to make sense. So added CAD DED page and the TMS HAD functions, which actually these have already been in there, so I don't know why they're here. So that there is interesting. Also, the HTS threat page, the Harm Targeted System threat page, change white highlighting classes. The fewer of the number of categories searched for, the faster the HTS can complete a full scan. It's best just to select categories of threats expected to be encountered. Let's unpick that. Right, that probably made no sense to you at all, but it will do in a second. So let's just work through our stuff. Air to ground. Turn the Harm on. Main menu. HAD, Harm Attack Display, otherwise known as HTS. If you remember, the HTS searches all around and looks for different radar emitters. Well, what about if we want to start filtering what it's looking for? If we want to allow it to search for everything, then we go to this threat subpage here, and we've got 11 classes. You can turn them on and turn them off. If they're on, they're highlighted. Now, with them all on like that, to do each scan, if you like, a bit like a radar B-sweep, sweeping left and right, takes 1 minute and 4 seconds. If I only wanted to search for a few of the classes, like just those classes there, each scan takes only 10 seconds. Much quicker refresh rate, because we're only looking for these emitters here. The next thing you're going to ask is, Cap, what do these classes mean? Well, ignore the word class, replace it with table. That's what we've been used to talking about in DCS. It's slightly different the way it works in DCS to how it works in real life. Now, let me bring you up the table of emitters that the AJM38C Harm can handle. Here they are. On the left, you can see their TB. That's table, otherwise known as class. There are 11 tables or 11 classes that the Harm can search for. RWR means what it shows up on the RWR, what symbology. The ID is at least the DCS 3-digit ID for that particular emitter, and then you've got the name of the emitter, okay? So if I wanted to turn off Table 1, which included the SA-10, the SA-11, and well, just the SA-10 and SA-11, turn it off, and we gained ourselves a few seconds. So that's cool, but what if I want a little bit more accuracy in what I'm searching for with the HTS? Well, we can then now integrate the DED. So, DED, we're going to go, where is it? List. I'm going to go to MISC. I'm going to go to HTS there. E, enter. We now get up to 8 manual frequencies or emitters that we can search for. So rather than searching for a whole class or a whole table, if we like, we can just look for a particular emitter type. This is where it gets a little complicated, because after speaking to someone on an actual F-16 base, we think they actually use 4-digit in real life, whereas in DCS we're just using 3-digit. So how this is actually going to work moving forward, we're not sure, but probably for the time being we just put this in as 3 digits. So for instance, we bring up our table. Let's say we want to look for the Type 071 Amphibious Transport Dock, which is ID 408, frequency 408. I would then go for emitter manual type 1. What would I do? 408, enter. Now look back down on the HAD/HDS, we now get manual added. If we add manual there, it goes up by an extra second, because we're now searching for an extra filtered site, which is frequency 408, which is the Type 71 amphibious dock. Now what we could do is turn all of these off now, and we're all the way down to 1 second, because we're now just looking for the 408 type. That's how we can use the HTS to just look at 1 or up to 8 different types. So I can just add more in if I wanted, up and down with the dobber up and down. It gives us more control of exactly what we're looking for. It's the integration of the DED and the HAD. Added radar ACM slew mode when in dogfight ACM mode. You know what, it's probably best if I just show you. So we have a brand new ACM radar mode. First thing to do is dogfight mode. We're now in dogfight mode. If you remember, TMS forward would give us the bore sight mode. It's now searching up to about 10 miles in that area there. If I quit that with TMS aft and I press TMS aft again, we get vertical mode. This scans on a big vertical line, something up like that, roughly where I'm measuring. Let's TMS aft again and get rid of that. Now we have a new mode. If we press the radar slew keys, or you could have a slew axis, but I'm going to use keys, these guys here, we can turn it into ACM slew mode. So off I go. There, this is ACM slew mode. It takes a while to get your head around this. First things to say is it's space stabilized to the ground in front of us, the horizon in front of us, rather than the actual aeroplane. So if I point the aeroplane up, it doesn't follow where the aeroplane is pointing, like with other modes in ACM. Instead, it's stabilized to the horizon is probably the best way of thinking about it. Okay, so I can move it about left, right, up, and down. Wherever I'm moving this circle here, it centers a scan of elevation 20 degrees, so 10 degrees up, 10 degrees down, and azimuth 60 degrees, so 30 degrees left, 30 degrees right, and I've double checked that with a bit of maths and that all works out okay. Note you can see repeated on our ACM fire control radar screen here, this cross here is where we've got this guy here, move it left and right, move it up and down. Now coming back to what we were said in that it is space stabilized to the horizon, if I move it up, you can see that the distance at which 5 miles in front of us, the 20 degrees elevation is covering up to 7,000 feet MASL down to a theoretical negative 3,000 feet MASL. Well, why is that useful? Well, for instance, if our GCI told us that an aircraft ahead of us is at a certain altitude, then this is a good way of trying to find it. Let's say it's in clouds and we couldn't see it. Here's an example. GCI says that there's a Herc in front of us within 10 miles. This only works within 10 miles at 16,000 feet. Well, all we've got to do is get this here. We're going to push it up so to encompass 16,000 feet. Whoops, that's a bit high. There. And now we're pretty much going to wait. In fact, we're going to push. Oh, it's done it. You see, we moved it up and it picked him up because in terms of elevation and lateral coverage, he was in it. So that's what it was useful for. If you didn't understand that, let's try it again. TMS aft to get rid of it. Let's slow it down now. Okay, so it's now, at the moment, it's not locking the guy that's somewhere there. Can you see him on my cursor? That's him there. Because we're only scanning up to 6,000 feet and down to a theoretical negative 3. Now, let's move it up so it encompasses this altitude from the GCI. That's a bit high. Something like that. That encompasses 16,000 feet and it's picked him up. So that's what it's used for. If you know the altitude of a hostile within 10 miles, but you can't see him, then this is the way to do it. Note, because of the large scan zone covered here, it will take a few seconds for it to actually pick up the target. JF-17 Thunder, the JF, a bunch of new air-to-air and air-to-ground radar features added. It's going to be best if I research them properly and present them to you in a separate video. Mirage 2000C, a bunch of relatively minor stuff added. I will make a proper video, but I'll also give you a quick summary now. First of all, an interesting option here. We go to options, special, not tag view, Mirage, if we can find it. Mirage, we can adjust the percentage position of the throttle that relates to the detent. So, for instance, for afterburner is naturally at 90% throttle. You could change it to 70% throttle. Or the detent for the cutoff, instead of 15%, you could make it 5%. I assume that this is so that it can match HOTAS's, actual real-life throttles that have inbuilt, like my wing throttle has inbuilt detents for this one here and this one here. And so you could now marry them up with the actual physical throttle and how it responds in game, if that makes sense. That's my assumption there. Next, let's jump into the Mirage. A whole new suite of sounds in the cockpit, just small things like doing switches are now sampled from the real aircraft rather than just kind of made up. All sorts of, just go around and play with it yourself. Also, if you're jumping in the aircraft for the first time since changes have happened, this sheet here on the kneeboard will come up showing you things, different things that have changed lately. So that's quite useful. Keep up with changes. Sounds and action of the canopy of change, for instance. Animation. System noises for the HUD, the VTH, radar, the VTB, the environmental systems, and so on. Lots of new binds in the HOTAS and keyboard controls here for loads of extra radar commands, so that's very useful. And probably the most cool thing is that the TAF system, that's the GCI intercept system that was added a few weeks ago, now has a link to LOT-ATC or LOTAC, which is a GCI type application, a third-party application outside of DCS, so we can link through and can command the TAF. So rather than just AI-controlled TAF, you can now have human-controlled GCI intercept from LOT-ATC, which I think is really interesting. We'll probably do a separate video of the Mirage to cover these changes properly. MiG-19 added cockpit floodlight on and off. We now have floodlight. I don't think we have this before. I stand to be corrected, but ping, I've never noticed that before. And I'm probably going to forget, but floodlight there and there. Also, if you wanted to bind them for some reason, ping, there and there. Mosquito, finally, we've got the RP3 rockets added to the armament. We'll do a proper video about this, but for the time being, there's a Mosquito. Payload page, pylons or stations 1 and 6. Type, either pairs or 4 times per wing. RP3 is the type. 25-pound warhead, 60-pound warhead, 60-pound warhead. Armor piercing, we think blast frag, or semi-armor piercing, so let's go for that there. So, master arm on, check. Arm the rockets, a little bit weird and hard to get to, but check. Do we want salvo or do we want singles? I'm going to go for non-salvo. And to actually fire them, fire rockets. That may change later on, but at the moment it's fire rockets. Get some. Ha 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 ha. AJS37 Viggen, really big update. I picked out the things that I think are most important. There's a lot of stuff in there that you'll probably never notice, but these are the things I think are important. Added new pilot seat harness for in-cockpit pilot, properly attaching the pilot to the ejection seat. Here I am in my Viggen. Here's my harness here, and down 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 here, and up there. And that's my harness, which is a bit weird because I guess he wasn't attached before. New gauge dynamics improvements. Gauges now more smoothly modelled into their positions as in other Heapler aircraft. Well, there's only one other one, and that's the Tomcat, so I suppose that's what they mean. Introduce dynamic fuel gauge animation. The fuel gauge needles will no longer teleport. Introduce dynamic compassing heading animation. So pretty much all the gauges now are, I guess you'd call them smoothed out in terms of the way that the needles move. So look, just at the engine, it's not the best example, but just look how smooth they go. Not jumping around and not kind of snapping into position like some of them used to be. So that's nice. New placeable static objects are now showing on the ground radar. Ahead of us, about 7 miles, are lovely big static objects I've put in. These are big tech warehouses. They should give a lovely feedback just on the runway, or the right of the runway. So let's turn our radar on. Ping. I'm going to just go to A1. Going to change the zoom. There we go. There is the runway there. There is the inlet there. And they are not appearing on the air-to-ground radar like they promised. So let me just go a little closer and double check. No. They're not picking up. They're not being picked up at all. They should give a lovely big shadow. You can see the runway right in front of me. So, I don't know. There you go. Remastered canopy texture, improving detail and resolution. Very nice looking, right? Very nice. Remastered textures of the rear cockpit bulkhead wall and crank neck and paba. Does it look any different to anyone? That's the rear cockpit bulkhead wall, I think. Well, apparently. Added normal maps and improved texture detail for seat cushions. Ooh, seat cushions. Added new canopy sealant textures, improving transition between glass and canopy. Ooh, sealant textures. Look, sealant. I've been sealing a lot of my house lately, so I know all about sealant. Waypoints defined as mission targets, endpoints, now show as 90,000. That's an error. It means 900,000 when selecting tacked out. CK37 input computer. We are going to go to ref long latitude input. We're going to make Bravo 2 here a mission waypoint or a target waypoint. And we're going to do that by going to actually tacked 9. Bravo 2. Output. Reset. And now let's go and check that out. So we're going to go tactical output Bravo 2. It now shows as 900,000. Data loading is possible only when a cartridge is inserted. So you used to be able to cheat. You used to be able to just pretend you were putting the cartridge in and then go and use your CK37 to input the data and it would still work. No longer. Now we have to actually click the button and put it in like that. And now we're going to do our ref Lola in 0-09 Lima Sierra, and now it'll suck in the data. So just bear in mind, you actually have to do it now. You can't be lazy. Corrected the radar in memory mode. The picture now freezes for 30 seconds. Radar mode on. Let it scan. You can see the B sweep and the refresh rate. Now we're going to press memory mode. Look at that. It freezes for 30 seconds. Toggling safety now allows the RB75 Maverick to be cycled. 4 times RB75 is equipped. I am now going to move it down on the scope. There, it's moved. Now I'm going to press safety, you know, the one you have to hold to fire anything, and watch what happens. Ping, it goes back, or it moves. And that's because it's now switched to the next RB75, so you can cycle through them like that. You can see some of them I've set down there, some of them I've set up there. So that's cool. What you could do is kind of set them all up in a certain place, and then to go back through, cycle them and fire them one by one. Just a different way that you can use them. Sidewinders and the RB75 Mavericks can now be cycled using the IRRB Framstegen button. Very similar to what we just saw. If we press this button here, Missile Select Toggle IRRB Framstegen Toggle, we can toggle between our selected Sidewinder and or RB75. In this case, we're actually going to toggle between both, I believe. So press it, and again, we're cycling through our Mavericks. Look, I think we're also cycling through our... Weapons can no longer be fired as normal on the ground. However, safety bypass button implemented in the back right of the cockpit. Pressing this button allows weapons to be fired on the ground. Really juicy targets in front of me, and I've got RB75s. Excellent news. What I used to be able to do is go ANF, boom. I used to select the weapon here, zam, and press the trigger and the safety bracket, wham, everything would die. No longer. We now have a safety bracket we have to press up here. Trying to find it. There. Ping, fire. Doesn't work. What about press and hold? Fire. Ping. Doesn't work. I can't get it to work. I don't think it works. Let me know what you guys think. Releasing the fixed trigger from TV position to the T0 position after a successful Type 2 fixed now displays the long and lat of the target. Well, I can't get this to work, but I'll see what, see if we can figure it out between us. So I've got the Maverick selected, as you would imagine. I'm going to T1 to free it up. I'm going to move it and try and find some baddies. There's a baddie right there. I'm going to get a TV fix on it. A bit far away really, but let's try that. Zip. Okay, TV fix on it. Next, I'm going to T0 the trigger, T0, which of course will reset it to bore sight or thereabouts. Ping. And at that point it says it should give me a lat long somewhere of that target point. Well, there's nothing on the CK-37 in lat long or AKT position, and I can't see where else I'm supposed to see a lat long. So let me know your thoughts on that, please. Landing gear extension retraction is now restricted for low RPM and high airspeed. So what I think that means is at higher airspeeds, it's obviously harder to bring the gear in and out. So having a low engine RPM, it basically won't work because it's not enough hydraulic pressure to open them at high airspeeds. That's my guess. Also with airspeed, landing gear damage is registered as a fault. Now it is possible to have it triggered by the failure list in the mission editor failures on single player only. Auto throttle now disengages after the throttle is moved considerably. Let's get our AFK, our automatic fart control on. Zap! On he goes. Now automatic throttle. If I want to bypass that manually, boom! Forward, and we've now bypassed it. To put it back on, we now have to recycle this. So automatic fart control up, automatic fart control on, end. Striped fuel required needle now shows fuel required to reach the final mission waypoint from current position when in SPA mode. So, flying along here, I want to know, what our fuel will be when we get to waypoint, the end of our waypoint chain. Just go to SPA, ping ping, and it's changed. You can see we're now going to have 10% fuel remaining. Altimeter knob can now be pulled in the cockpit. Barometric altimeter. Pull. Ha 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 ha. Unpull. Max G needle has been implemented. Accelerometer. There. Max G. Dotted needle. Watch this. Pull. Ta-da. Max G now 4G. Radar stick is now animated. The radar stick that never used to move, now moves when you move the radar stick commands about. Looks a bit crap to me. I think it should be smoother, but let me know what you think. Added clickables and animations for the missing radar stick controls. All of those ones there. So we've got lots of controls and buttons and switches and stuff on the radar stick here. They never were animated, and now they are. So for instance, I want to change between my radar modes. Radar mode 1, radar mode 2. Nice little touch. Auto start and auto stop are now assignable as keybinds. Well, it's taken 4 years, but we now have finally auto start and auto stop, where you just press a button, it will start itself up. So automatic startup procedure. I'm sure this absolutely killed them having to add this in, but all aircraft should have this in. Otherwise, I will kick their butts. And oh, I can't actually find auto stop, but it is in there somewhere. Seat height adjustment switch is now clickable in the cockpit. Finally, we have a seat height adjustment button. I mean, we've always had it, but it, we had to use the keyboard like that. Now we can go ping, up, pilot coming down. Added more accurate RWR sounds with the buzz mod. Thank you. I haven't tested that out, but I'm sure they will sound very good, and I'll check that out as soon as I'm in a mission. And that brings us to the end of today's update. It was a very big one and a very cool one. I hope you all have an excellent Christmas. I will see you back after that, and I will endeavour to try and do the other follow-up videos as soon as I can. Bye-bye for now.